Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, on this Thursday evening. Our topic today is going to be media and the impact of media. As this is a quite broad topic that gives you a lot to talk about, really, I focused on two special aspects. So I'll talk about the effects that social media has on the private lives of people and also on the job lives of the people. Of course, there are other aspects to it, but then I think these are the most important ones. So that's what I'm going to focus on. First of all, I need a pen. There we go. First of all, a definition of the term media. Of course, like talking about media is of course more than only social media. Nowadays, as the word social media already features the word, we tend to think about Facebook, Twitter and other online platforms mainly when we hear the word. But then there's also the traditional or the old media. Traditional media are, of course, TV, radio, newspapers, of course. I guess the newspapers, like TV and radio, are pretty obvious, really. In the book that most of you probably will have, or in your books, whatever, there's the pros and cons of television and the radio as the medium for advertising. But then newspapers, I guess, give you more to talk about. So for the exams, you should maybe familiarize yourself with these two terms. Yes, that moment when you misspell the word. No, it was correct, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oops. Anyway, it's been a long day. In newspapers, the most important thing, or I guess one of the most important aspects, is that there are two different types of newspapers, the tabloids and the broadsheets. We know them as good or low or bad quality papers. In England, especially in England, the difference between tabloids and broadsheets is quite big in quality. As the name already suggests, same in Austria really. Broadsheets are the really big ones, like the ones that have the huge format. They are usually the high quality papers, whereas the tabloids are the ones that usually feature all the important gossip about celebrities and wannabe celebrities. So for the exam, if your topic is media, I'd definitely have a look into that as well, because it, like, especially in the dialogue part, you could have the task to like compare the old media, or traditional media, television, radio, and the newspapers, with the new ones, especially the internet and different types of instant messaging. They would also fall in the category of media, of course. So that's it. Tonight we're gonna focus on social media. One piece of advice or one tip, if I were you, or if my topic was to point out the pros and cons of social media, if I were you, I would focus on one. I would maybe choose Facebook as an example. We all know, or chances are that the examination board knows what Facebook looks like, what the layout is, what it can do, what it can't do. So I would suggest that you pick one of the social media platforms and focus on it in your talk, because it's much easier to talk about one thing than including all the social media platforms that there are, all the instant messaging services that there are. There we go. That was a complicated one. For the talk tonight, I gonna focus on Facebook. So if I have to make or bring real life examples, it will always be Facebook, because, as I said, I think it's easier to pick one clear example that we all know. So should be something that your examination board, your audience, is familiar with. So it's about social media. Facebook in my examples, and we're gonna start off with the pros. The standard exam question is talk about the advantages and disadvantages of social media, talk about the advantages and disadvantages of Facebook or the internet in general maybe, but then many aspects of the internet and the more specific aspect of social media platforms on the internet, there's a lot of overlaps, so it would be, if you do your research into one, you basically have the other, you have both covered basically. I'm gonna talk you through the pros and cons, we will summarize it in the end, and then maybe me and Natasha over there, say hi to Natasha in front of your screens, we will maybe show you what the dialogue part of an exam could look like. Let's see how much ground we get covered in the talk actually. So, talking about the pros of social media, we start with the least important ones because similar to German essays in English presentations, you should probably start with the least important argument. People tend to remember what they hear last, so it would be a quite smart piece of advice to keep the most important aspect or the most important argument that you have to the end, because that's what people will remember and your examination board will think, well, yeah, that was a really well thought through presentation and he or she knows what he or she is talking about. So we start with something that is really obvious and maybe not that important. At the end of the day, social media are a really good pastime. Pastime is the English word for Zeitvertreib. It is fun. You can, you meet a lot of nice people out there. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of exchange of information as well. You can chat to people. You can, be up to date about what the people do, who you were in class with or who you did your course with. So at the end of the day, it is a fun pastime. It shortens your waiting time on trains and buses and so on and so forth. So pastime might also be a quite good word to remember for you guys out there. So it's fun. That's probably one of the pros. Passes your time very well. There's always something to look up. There's always some profile to stalk. There's always some news going on that you might be interested in. I mentioned the second one already. Staying in touch with people. You can keep the contact with friends, people you met while traveling, people you met while abroad, whatever. That's a quite nice phrasal verb, to keep or to stay in touch with someone, mit jemandem in Kontakt bleiben. Maybe more common than the stay in contact with someone, so it's a really English phrasal verb really. You stay in touch with people. Obvious pro of all types of all different types of social media, especially Facebook. That tool for keeping up with old friends. You get a lot of information, which now we are getting deeper into the matter. It's really easy nowadays to get information about whatever topic you're interested in, really, with all the groups that you can join on Facebook. There's always something for whatever hobby you have. You can exchange information with other people. You can talk about your field or your area of expertise with those people. You might also find out something new about the topic, like stuff that you did not know before. About politics, of course, there's always, especially Facebook is a very good medium for getting news about politics, foreign politics especially the videos that there's always some footage about whatever political news that there are. Especially Facebook rose to fame when it was one of the first media platforms to really post footage about the Arabic Spring. So when Arab countries started to rebel, go in the streets, protest, whatever, there was footage on Facebook very, very early, so it made the news basically real quick. So Facebook will prove a really valuable tool for the people to show the world what's going on. So this might be a very good example of politics on Facebook and spreading political news on Facebook. Also, of course, via Facebook and good newspapers, we tend to know a lot more about elections. We know a lot more about what's going on in Germany at the moment, as the elections are up pretty soon. We know a lot about what Donald Trump does in America. We know what Russia does, whatever. So, elections, politics, and so on, valuable tool for whatever sports you're interested in, for whatever, basically whatever hobby you have. There's definitely some information on Facebook, so that's a definite pro point of the whole thing, and it's really easy as well. You don't have to go to any libraries and consult books or really read newspapers. Everything's online nowadays. The quality might be debatable, but that's one of the main points that I'll come to a little later. Very good for you as future job seekers or as people who are out there on the market, on the job market, with platforms like LinkedIn. I think that is the correct way of spelling it. There's a lot of possibilities nowadays to market yourself on the job market via different types of social media or via different types of online platforms. I think LinkedIn is the most famous one, not necessarily tied up to media, but to the internet in general. There's a lot of similar platforms. You can basically advertise yourself, convince future employers that you are their candidate. There's also a lot of online ads, so I think nowadays basically all of the most important, or all of the Austrian newspapers advertise their job section online and in paper form as well. But it's always more current, so you'd probably learn about job vacancies earlier than in cases when you wait for the newspaper to print its next version. So that's definitely a pro point as well. Gives you a lot of possibilities to find new jobs and also to market yourself. I don't really know how LinkedIn works, but from what I know, it's really advertising yourself kind of thing. So definite pro point as well. What else do we have? For businesses, business. Why does that word look so wrong?
It's just one N.
Oh, that one.
And two S in the end.
It's a hard word.
No, in the end, two S.
That is okay. Let's try again. That's really hard.
Looks better.
That's what I thought as well. For businesses nowadays, especially Facebook here, Facebook lends itself as a perfect example. There's a lot of online advertising going on. So it's advertisement for free. Especially smaller companies, startup companies do use social media a lot for advertising purposes. I do know about a few small companies where it's only one or two people working there, but they do a lot of advertising via the internet. You probably all know the cosmetics line Lush. They started with online advertisement, or with mainly doing online advertisement. So that obviously seems to work. Also smaller, or also bars and coffee shops and so on and so forth, nowadays do a lot of advertisement on the internet, on Facebook, especially in the beginning, as it is for free and you save yourself the costs for advertisement in print media or on the radio or television. Television is really expensive, so this is out of question for especially the smaller businesses. So the target group for smaller businesses would definitely be Facebook and similar online platforms, which I think is a very Good way of advertising, also because you can share the pages and like the pages. You all know what you can do on Facebook, but the more likes you get, the more people, or the more likely it is that you reach a very broad audience. The more people share your post, the more people read it. So it's kind of this snowball effect that is going on Facebook and the internet in general. So I think advertisement is one of the biggest pro points of social media nowadays. And of course the fact that it's for free has enabled many smaller businesses, many young businesses to do professional advertising for a special target group. Of course, it's not everyone has Facebook, so as a company, as a business, you definitely have to be careful about what media you use for your advertisements. But then, if it fits the target group, I think Facebook is a perfect medium for certain companies. Then, of course, one big topic, bigger than we may think really, is online shopping. Most of you, I guess, have already done some online shopping. We all know Zalando and similar companies that are very, very present on television as well. And they'd always advertise their products and their online stores on television. So we all know that. We've tried it. Amazon, the beginning of online shopping, really. We all know Amazon, and we've definitely all ordered books or whatever, household appliances. You can order whatever you like on Amazon. So online shopping is definitely a pro. You do not have to leave your home anymore. You have a quite big choice usually. On Amazon you have a lot of different options of which book to buy. Do you want a new one? Do you want a used one? Which is usually slightly cheaper. Gives you a lot more flexibility than going to a store and having to take what they offer. So online shopping is very flexible, cheaper, even though there are some people who say that it isn't really, that we only assume it is, but then that goes beyond the scope of the topic. So online shopping is very flexible, cheap, gives you a broad range of products, a lot of choice. Can also be a minus point, but I will talk about that when we are in the minus section. Some people say that online shopping eventually might be the death of traditional shops, especially the smaller ones. Whether or not this is true, I don't know. It's up to you to... This is a cross, by the way, the sign that... it's the death of traditional shops, especially the smaller ones. You in front of your screens can decide whether or not this is true. But yeah, that's at least what some opponents of online shopping say or believe or think. Good. What else do... yeah, of course. But that ties up with what I said already. Exchange of ideas, Facebook and so on, definitely are a carrier of ideas. Revolutionary. I always pick really, really hard words today. Revolutionary thoughts. As I said, the standard example for this argument is the Arabic Spring that we've already talked about, but also other small-scale movements. There's a lot of politics, there's a lot of opinion making going on Facebook. Whether or not this is good or only good, again, is up to you to decide. But then, yes, it is the quickest way of sharing and spreading ideas. If channeled in the right direction and if the ideas are good, I would definitely see this as a big pro point. You have I don't know how many people that there are on Facebook, but yeah, you definitely do have a very, very big target audience if you do it right. So I guess the exchange of ideas and the sharing of ideas is a big pro point. Sometimes people also engage into discussions, not all of them on a very high level, but then you can also, there's a lot of good discussions going on Facebook as well, so I guess you could also use it to inform people, and by informing them, changing or amending their opinions slightly. So I guess that's a good thing as well, if done correctly, of course. Anything else? Is there anything else that you can think of?
I think these are the most important pro points.
That's what I thought as well, so we move on. Of course, there's always minus points as well. Nowadays, with the overload of social media, and there are a lot out there, that's true. Some people say that the cons outweigh the pros, which is, again, up to you to decide. Standard exam question or a question that comes up very frequently in the exams is, what do you think? Do you think that the pro side or the con side has stronger arguments? So you may want to think about that, and also make sure that you're able to really argue your opinion. But then I'll give you the con points first, and then we're going to talk about it a little later. Something that is usually mentioned, and that you probably know a lot about because it's on television, and in the newspapers very frequently. There's always stories about bullying that are shared and spread and told. Bullying is what we know as mobbing. Make sure that you use the English word, so stick to the bullying. Nowadays it's cyberbullying, of course. The only difference being it not in person but done via the internet. One case that became very popular, and again, I know that I repeat myself, but I can't say it often enough. Make sure that you give real life examples, because then you can prove that you did that you did your homeworks and that you investigated into the topic. There was this famous, or rather infamous, case of Amanda Todd on the internet a couple of years ago. Meanwhile, I don't really know which year it was, but anyway, only Google the name and you'll find out. The girl's from Canada, or was from Canada, and she was bullied. It was mainly cyberbullying, but then also in person. The bullying was mainly done via Facebook and then also via instant messaging. Don't know which instant message it was, but doesn't matter anyway. Anyway, she ended up committing suicide. The case as such would maybe not be that famous if she hadn't published her story on YouTube. There's a video on YouTube about her, or by her in that case. She's not talking in the video, so she's not telling her story, but she wrote her story down on flashcards, the Moderatorenkarten that we all know. It's sometimes full sentences, sometimes only keywords. Anyway, she tells her story and holds the cards in front of the camera and shows us through a sequence of cards telling her story. That was what made her case famous. Yeah, as I said, investigate into it. It's the first case of cyberbullying that ended in suicide that was made really public. Especially Canadian and American newspapers caught on it and started a campaign against cyberbullying, especially Canada in that case, as she was Canadian. Canadian schools and Canadian media have launched a massive campaign that informs people about cyberbullying and about its consequences. Everything started after Amanda Todd committed suicide, so that was one of the first infamous cases. As I said, what's wrong today? Examples are really good, so she'd be, a really illustrative example of what cyberbullying is, of what the consequences are. And it's a well-researched story as well, so there's a lot of background information on her and on the case, so might be worth a try. So Google it, look it up. There is also people, which I need to save paper. There's also people who say that the internet in general and social media in particular can get an addiction. I don't know. I don't like computers enough to get addicted in any case, I guess. But then, obviously, there are people. With the advent of Facebook and other such platforms, obviously the cases of like people having sleepless nights because they are on Facebook most of the nights, are waiting for a reply of someone, have increased. So yeah, I guess that's internet addiction, social media addiction. People desperately needing the attention of whoever they talk to, which then in turn becomes a psychological issue. So I guess there is something to the argument that the internet and also social media can become some sort of addiction, even though I don't really know how, but anyway. So obviously there's a lot of people spending too much time on social media platforms, talking to the wrong people, waiting for replies, getting up in the middle of the night to check if there is a reply. Yeah, anyway. Whether or not you think, whether or not you think that the arguments are important and in which sequence that you want to present them is up to you. Yeah, obviously, Googling internet addiction or social media addiction leads you to a lot of information, really. So, obviously, this is more of an issue that I thought, or that you may have thought. Something that is an issue, I've learned, and that also is a problem for people, for like companies and people working lots of working time. I did some research on it. Obviously, there are statistics out there which you may want to look up on how much money a company loses if their employees are checking Facebook like 5 or 6 times during working time, during the 8 hours that they're sitting in the office. Obviously, it's billions of money that companies lose. So, yeah, people get distracted. Distraction, the English word for Ablenkung. You may think that you only spend like a minute or two on Facebook just after lunch break, quickly checking whether or not somebody has bothered to message you. But then, obviously, it adds up and leads to massive problems for the companies. Of course, also your employers might not be happy if they catch you check your Facebook instead of working. So yeah, might be worth a thought. Anyway, obviously that is, especially for bigger companies where there are a lot of people on the computer at the same time, there's a lot of money going lost for like people spending time on Facebook and other platforms. So that's obviously an issue. The word of the year. Love that word. Has even made its way into most of the dictionaries, also German ones. They'd also use the English word because fake news has become that catchphrase of 2017, I guess. I mentioned that one of the biggest or one of the strongest arguments in favor of Facebook and other social media platforms is the exchange of information and like the easiness with which you can get all the information. But then there's also a lot of fake news out there. There's people manipulating news, manipulation in everything, in the text, but especially in the pictures. So whatever video footage or whatever photographs that are out there, sometimes researching the origin of the picture or of the footage basically discloses the fact that it was not actually taken or shot in the country or in the situation that people make you believe. So there's a lot of fake pictures, fake videos that are trying to manipulate you in such a way that you believe. Like, we tend to believe what pictures and videos show us, but then sometimes they turn out to be fake or like not really depicting what they say that they depict. So you definitely have to be careful about what's out there. Fake news in politics, like political parties spreading news about the opponents, that's nothing new. Countries blaming other countries for political moves that they might not have made, or at least not in the way that the other country wants to make us believe. So punchline: be careful of what's out there. It might be a lie, depending on who or what the source is, really. Then that's something that concerns you as future, or that concerns everyone, really, not only as future employees but also as citizens. There is the concept of the glassy or transparent. I think I like the transparent one more because it makes more sense. Really, citizen. Nowadays, everyone's very easy to monitor. We very voluntarily put a lot of information out there in the world. We all have Facebook profiles that we share pictures on, that we share information on. We like certain pages. There's also software nowadays, obviously, that can, I don't know much about the topic, but then I've heard that there's that there is software that analyzes our likes and the pages that we have a look at and kind of profiles us. So, yeah, I guess we like social media a lot and we put a lot of information out there, which makes us very transparent. People know everything about us, really. On a smaller scale, nowadays, of course, it is very easy for your future employers to quickly Google you, look you up on the internet, check your Facebook page, check your LinkedIn profile, like what I said before, if you have one. So yeah, be careful what you put out there. Make sure there's only the good sides of you. And last point, obviously also a topic nowadays, cybercrime. That makes sense. Yeah, well, you know what I mean anyway. There is a lot of crime going on. Starts with the ones that we already know. Software that analyzes your credit card details. We hear about that very often, that people make payments with a credit card that is not yours because of all the online payments that we make. I guess there's more of a danger for people to find out all the codes and stuff. So cybercrime has increased a lot. Blackmailing as well. Via the internet. Blackmailing is the English word for Erpressung. So obviously that is going on as well. On a smaller scale, fake products. You order stuff online but it doesn't exist, or you never get it delivered, really. So yeah, that's also an issue. And some more serious stuff, well, it doesn't have to be. Stalking, of course. I guess social media platforms.
You have a misspelling pornography.
Or no.
PH.
Today is not my day. Can I go home? Pornography.
Yes.
Did I really misspell the word?
Yes.
Seriously. Sorry, guys. Anyway, you know what I mean. Yeah. The internet makes it very easy for wrong footage to be spread, for people who share stuff like that to connect. But then people always leave traces on the internet somewhere. So I guess it has also made it much easier for the police and certain agencies to find out. So I guess there's that kind of outweighs it a little. Yeah, stalking on a small and a large scale. As I said, we put a lot of information out there. There's always people know how to find us. People know how to find out relevant information. Anything else? Any more cybercrime that there is? I think that's it now. Good. So, having said all that, we should maybe summarize. It was a lot of information and we should maybe summarize it a little for you. I thought that I do my summary not in written form, as my spelling is going wrong all the time today, so I'm not gonna do that. My speaking's fine still. So, me and Sasha, if she wants to.
Sure.
Very.
Like always.
There she is. First time you see her tonight. We are like in your, I don't know how many videos you've watched already. There's always some trial exams that the Matura Express does. Me, myself, and Natasha, we've done quite a few. But then there's always a monologue part and the role play, like dialogue part. We're gonna do the dialogue part, trying to summarize all the pros and cons, so that you see what a possible exam conversation basically could look like. So, you are against someone.
Okay, yes.
Okay. So, well, I noticed that you're hardly ever on Facebook. Like, there's no pictures, no nothing. What's wrong?
I know, I'm not really a big fan of all that social media stuff. Because well, I've seen you post a lot, and I think that's a bit dangerous. So.
Well, all I ever post is holiday pictures. There's nothing against the beach and the palm tree. Like,
yeah, no, but I think it's a bit dangerous. What people know everything about you, and this can end up very bad. You know, I personally have been a victim of cyberbullying, so I think you should really pay attention because people find something bad in everything. You know. Like your posts from the beach, I mean, they're cool. We all invite you, but there are always people.
That's the plan. That's why I do it. Like.
I know. But I think, people kind of save these pictures, and maybe in some years this could end bad for you. I don't know.
So what you were saying is basically that I should consider my posts a little more.
Yes, maybe not post everything, because especially nowadays this is very dangerous.
That's true.
And I've also seen that you posted a picture where you were on vacation, where you should have been in school. So I think, now in school it's okay, but if you're working and your boss sees holiday pictures when you're called in sick, it's...
Yeah, that's true.
Could end really bad.
You know, in school, I kind of know that in school nobody will find out, and but you're right.
The problem is everyone is able to find out everything nearly.
That's true. But then, I just take a picture and think it's really cool, and I just want to share it with everyone. Like, anyway.
I know, but I think it's very dangerous nowadays, because I've seen something in television where they were testing how much people know about you just because what you're liking on Facebook. And there was some woman with a computer, she entered just some likes, and then they tested it, and she was able to say the same amount about stuff about people like one of their best or closest friends. So that's a bit scary, yeah.
That is scary. Like, okay, I guess I should really be a bit more careful. Really, do you see any other dangers in social media than only like the picture thing?
I see a lot of danger. I think it's just, look at your Facebook, at your news feed, about all the news you hear and how people react to it before even knowing is what they hear real, or is it just
that's
imagination, just someone who says, look at this picture, and in the end the picture is made with Photoshop, so...
Do you ever engage in any of the discussions? Like, I guess there are a lot of topics that you're interested in. Do you discuss, all the very heated discussions that people have?
Not really, because I just read these comments, and I see also the comments my friends make. And I just think, oh my God, because I think, well, even especially when it's about politics, I think this could end really bad. If you're posting really... especially nowadays, aggressive comments on some political stuff, this could end up really bad, because you're never able to delete everything completely.
That's true.
And if your boss has another opinion, this is not so really good.
Yeah, that's true. What do you do on social media? Like, you have Facebook, we're friends, so what do you do then? Like, sounds as if you were like a Facebook ghost kind of thing?
Yes, I'm kind of silent stalker. I'm just looking at everything my friends do on Facebook.
Okay.
But I rarely comment stuff or so. You've seen it. I post 1-2 pictures a year, because I'm not really into it. But I, like you, and I have some other friends who really kind of nearly addicted to it, who are every time constantly on. My friend is constantly on Snapchat. Every minute she posts something. But I think I don't want to end up like this. I mean, I don't want to offend you, but I think it's not good.
Well, I don't know if I would know. I probably wouldn't consider myself a social media addict, but then, you know, I still sleep at night, and I'm still like kind of, you know.
But I think the time just adds up, you know. Even I'm not that much on Facebook, but if I just think about, just before going to bed, I want to look just 1 minute, and in the end it's 20 minutes, and in the morning, you have to check everything. So true. I think maybe we're all addicted.
I can totally see your point in that. Like, and I know a lot of people who would not be able to live without social media and without the internet in general, but then without social media in particular.
Then I don't understand why you're that a big fan of social media.
Well, the thing is that I, like, you know, especially living in Austria, limits the amount of information that you can get by, you know, print media and so on. So unless you have a subscription to the New York Times or whatever, you don't really know what's going on. And I use it for news a lot, even though I know that, you know,
that's a bit dangerous.
Now everything
it depends on which newspaper you rely on.
But I have a online subscription, as I said, to the New York Times and to some what I consider quality Austrian newspapers. So I guess, you know, it just makes it so much easier. That's why I'm on Facebook. But the problem is I always get distracted. So I read an article in the Standard, and then I'm like, oh, a friend of mine posted something. So yeah, you're right. I think I should. But do you read newspapers online?
Just a few. Like you, like American quality papers. Like, of course, the New York Times I like to read, but not that much local newspapers, just about sometimes Die Presse. But I think, especially in Austria, a lot of the newspapers are not what I would call quality papers. So.
Totally
but
agree.
The problem is, what I see a lot on Facebook is that a lot of my friends, they see a newspaper from Ö24 and they just really get into it and really post aggressive and I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But as you know,
that's where I'm just like reading it and thinking maybe you should step away from the computer.
Well, but I think that I, you know, do know how to.
Of course, you have to decide it for yourself, but it's not.
I guess that's, you know, you're right. I spend a lot of time on Facebook and other social media platforms, but then part of it is really for information, as I think that this is one of the, you know.
Yes, it is a
major advantages that that the whole thing has. Have you ever, when you apply for jobs, have you ever kind of cleared out your Facebook profile, thinking that your future boss may check for internships or something?
I think it was. I was applying for a Burton store,
nice.
And I just looked at my Facebook like, okay, this should go away maybe, and maybe this title picture would be better. But I think, everyone checks. I mean, when I get to know people and I think, hey, you're cool, I like you, I also just go to Google and type in their name and see what I get. So I think it's obvious that your future employers are doing the same.
I guess that's, you know.
That's why I was talking about your beach pictures, which might not be too appropriate all the time.
Oh well, do I still have them as background? I should change that. Probably time to get a somewhat more serious one. Do you think, because you mentioned the Burton store and that you changed your picture and so on, do you think people use it for self-marketing? Is everything that we see about people on Facebook, is that true?
I think there are some of my Facebook friends, which I'm not really friends in person. I just know them, you know, just like how Facebook friends are. But I think if you just read what they post in the pictures, you know, it's just about, I want attention, I want people to like me, but that's not how they are in person. So I think that's a bit disappointing, because let us all be who we are. We don't have to have 500 likes on Instagram or something like
I
this.
thought you were gonna say something like, yeah, and then you meet them in person and you're like really disappointed because
that's true sometimes.
because they are boring and
I know there was one girl who I've seen a lot on Instagram and I've been stalking her, and then I met her in person in university and I was like, oh, that's you. That's okay.
Not that great at the end of the day. Last thing about social media. You are obviously very, very careful and very well informed about what you should and should not do. Why do you still have your Facebook then, if it's rubbish, kind of?
Yeah, because I have to admit it's fun, you know, stalking people, seeing what stuff they post, and of course I also like to be informed. But I think, you know, social media is not every kind of social media is bad, but I think that people are not paying enough attention when they're using it.
Yeah.
So. Of course, everyone is allowed to have Facebook. I mean, I have it and I use it and everything. But just think twice before you're posting something. Would be useful.
True. And I'll get rid of my beach picture. This was actually a very nice closing word. Thank you very much. Be careful on what you post. No, I hope that we could give you a little summary. There was also some points mentioned that I did not touch upon so much, but yeah, it was all stuff that you can use in your dialogue. There was all arguments that you could come up with or that you could write down in your preparation time for the exams. Of course, there are more pros and cons, and as I said before, it would be useful if you kind of rank them for yourself. Starting with what you think is the least important thing, and really think about good arguments for the more important ones. Like, why do you think that they are important? Give real life, like some of them are self-explanatory. Like, it's fun. Facebook is fun. That's self-explanatory. It's a good means of staying in touch with people. Is self-explanatory as well. That's what it was founded for. But for the more serious arguments, make sure that you have real life examples as well, like the Amanda Todd example that I gave you. The example we discussed, pictures and posts and likes stay out there forever. There's software, there's people who will analyze what you do. So yeah, that was a really good example actually. So think about examples, and that was it. That was social media. Thank you very much and good night.